Welcome one and all to another Borderlands 4 video, and today we have plenty of juicy details between multiple interviews with Randy Pitchford, all the Gamescom info that I may have missed, and info coming in from the Twitter sphere. Borderlands 4 will be shown at PAX West starting Friday, August 25th at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be streaming this event here on my channel, so if you'd like to come hang out, then be sure to get subbed and tap the bell to get notified when I go live. Now, without further ado, let's dive into every last detail you will need to know leading up to Borderlands 4 at PAX West. To kick things off, I want to share this tweet that Randy Pitchford put out talking about how well pre-orders are doing, and because of this he says, quote, "I'm seeing if we can add a thank you as an extra little gift for all of you who have pre-ordered," end quote. So it sounds like maybe for those that have pre-ordered, we may get an extra something. What that something is, I could not tell you. Moving on though, I want to go into interviews. All interviews I discuss in this video will have links to the full thing in the description below. Randy Pitchford had an interview at Gamescom with Insider Gaming and talked about how people tend to like games that are easy. Games that they can settle into, and funny enough, when he talked about this, I got nervous, but he took a turn and started saying that's why he is nervous. He goes on to talk about how Borderlands 4 does push challenges with its players to new heights, and talks about why that's okay. Randy Pitchford explains if you feel something is too difficult, you go farm and level up from that little chump to a god tier badass that can now take on the boss with ease. The fact he addresses the struggles people might face and answers with exactly what Borderlands should be about is really exciting to me. Farming is a foundation of the hardcore Borderlands community, so saying things like this out loud really reaffirms with the fan base that Randy Pitchford understands and hears us. Being a game developer and understanding when to stand on your own 2 feet is extremely important. In my opinion, a game for everyone is a game for no one. To say this is the structure of the game we crafted, if you are struggling, this is how to overcome that within our game, that's not easy to say when money is on the line, but this is what Borderlands was built on, and to me, this shows Gearbox understands the mission at hand, and I think at PAX West, we will all see that. Next up, in this Randy Pitchford Answers Your Questions video, toward the end we get a peek of all these modes, which I screenshot from the video. This shows us the prerequisites for different modes in matchmaking. As you can see, one of these is Ultimate Vault Hunter, which says explore Kairos with Ultimate Vault Hunter ranks enabled, and it has these checkboxes saying you must have the campaign completed and Ultimate Vault Hunter ranks unlocked. I wonder if you unlock these Ultimate Vault Hunter ranks once you hit max level in Borderlands 4? I also wonder if unlocking Ultimate Vault Hunter ranks will be profile-wide or just per character. If I had to guess, I'd say per character. I don't think these Ultimate Vault Hunter ranks are like Guardian or Badass ranks, but more akin to OP levels or Mayhem levels. We had a screenshot from a while back about specialization levels, and I think that is what will be more akin to our Badass/Guardian rank system. After that, we can see Moxsy's big encore runs, which sounds like it'll be a boss rush mode, which is amazing. I am so hyped for this as it was in Wonderlands, but as I asked for, it's not the only endgame, it's just a supplemental way to experience farming/boss fighting. It would also be cool if you complete these, you get a bonus chest at the end or something. And the last of these modes is Weekly Wildcard, and I am so curious what this will be all about. It says, confident? Test your build against these weekly missions. I wonder if these are missions specifically made for this mode, or if it's missions already in the game, but with the difficulty turned up to challenge you. Maybe in return you get better rewards, or more rewards to target farm the mission faster? It really could be anything, and I can't wait to find out more. Next up, in an All Out Gaming interview, they confirmed that the Switch 2 version of Borderlands 4 is crossplay with other platforms, and it's confirmed to work with mouse mode, which honestly looks really cool as a PC player myself. The only thing that sucks is at least at launch, it is confirmed that the game will not have cross-save/progression. This means if you hop from PC to the Switch 2, none of your saves transfer. Also, in the All Out Gaming interview with Randy Pitchford, he was asked about Wonderlands 2. Apparently, at some point, there was a false report that Wonderlands 2 had been shelved, and I say false because Randy seems very positive on more fantasy but no concrete yes to Wonderlands 2. However, he does say, quote, "I feel like we're just getting started there. I would bet that we are going to spend more time on that." End quote. I personally think it's definitely happening, and if you'd like to hear my thoughts about the potential of a Wonderlands 2, then be sure to check out this video, link down below. Now moving on, we have some things from EpicNNG, link to his channel down below. A small tweet from EpicNNG here is apparently there will be 14 safe houses in Borderlands 4 across the map. So it sounds like we will be getting a bunch of mini hubs rather than just one large hub. I suppose this makes sense given the size of the map, and honestly this is great because it adds to the amount of convenient fast travel locations we'll have in-game. Also, you get a reward for finding them all, which I would assume is a cosmetic, but that's just a complete guess, I don't actually know. Another tweet from EpicNNG, which I believe I've shared in another video, but I thought I'd share it here as well. Zane is the one who runs all the vending machines on Kairos, and interacting with them will give you dialogue from Zane, which I really like. To be honest, Marcus will be missed, but at the same time, I've been hoping we get Zane to be the one that tells the story at the beginning of the playthrough for Borderlands 4. To my own surprise, I would love that. There aren't many characters I'd be willing to let replace the brilliant narration Marcus brings, but Zane has that personality and charisma that just makes me think he could bring a fun twist that breathes new life into Borderlands as a whole. Next up, we learn a good amount about the performance of Borderlands 4 on PC, thanks again to EpicNNG, link to his channel down below. First, we start by learning that both DLSS 4 and FrameGen are supported. However, the only GPUs that support this are 40 series GPU and higher. Before I go any further, EpicNNG points out that the builds they play on are outdated, and so nothing in this report is concrete, but this at least gives us a rough idea of where the game is optimization wise. Now moving forward, to kick things off, is EpicNNG says performance is really good, which really gets me hyped. I definitely trust him as a good source, so this was good to hear. Something awesome EpicNNG shared was the specs of a PC playing Borderlands 4 at 4K native resolution, no upscaling and no frame gen, and over 60 frames per second on ultra graphics. The specs were an AMD Ryzen 7 9800 X3D with an Nvidia RTX 5080 16GB graphics card, 64GB of RAM, and a 1TB Samsung 990 Pro solid-state drive. Now these are higher end specs, but to be honest, for this to play at 4K with no DLSS and no frame gen on ultra graphic settings with over 60 frames per second, that is pretty impressive to me. This actually makes me wonder if the Steam recommended specs are higher than it needs to be. Now, take that with a grain of salt because all we truly have is what we were given to us here. I personally have never laid my hands on Borderlands 4 or even seen gameplay in person myself, so I have no info from myself, but I fully trust EpicNNG as a source to give reliable info like how his game ran and played and graphic settings and specs. But do keep in mind that the specs that this game was tested on were higher end specs, and we have no benchmarks of the game on a lower spec build. But this does make me optimistic. Now, we have no exact frame count as the in-game frame counter wouldn't work, so all we have to go off of is EpicNNG's eyes, but I do trust him again as a great source, and I highly recommend you guys check out his video where he has more info than I have. Link down below. Now moving on, we go back to the game itself, where we have a tweet from Mental Mars. Maurice Black Market Vending Machine returns in Borderlands 4, but is going to work a little differently. This was exciting and interesting to me. I wonder if it will require some other currency. I definitely think whatever the twist is, it will make getting legendaries from it more difficult, as making legendaries difficult to acquire seems to be a big aim for Gearbox with Borderlands 4. Next up, we have a tweet from Moxsy here, and I guess Borderlands 4 will feature dynamic wildlife where you can see things like herds of animals passing through. That's pretty cool. Now moving along, something I never thought of till watching this Moxsy video is how do entanglement damage interactions work? Does it share gun damage? Action skill damage? Does it scale if you have increased action skill damage skills? Moxsy actually has the answer, which is really cool because it was a dev that was in his chat who answered this question, and they said it's not action skill damage, it's just skill damage. To which Moxsy's video taught me that all action skill damage does skill damage, but not all skill damage does action skill damage, which makes sense when I think about it. Guys, Moxsy is so much better at explaining this stuff than I am, and he goes much more in depth about it too, so if you haven't checked out his video on this, I highly recommend it. One more small thing that I want to talk about from this video is unique reloads. Some of you may think this isn't a big deal, but honestly, small visuals like this really breathe some life into what becomes the usual for us. I do wonder if it at all affects our reload times. I kinda doubt it. It doesn't look like much, and either way, I'm excited as, again, it's just a cool eye catcher every once in a while, and Moxsy definitely made this sound like it's pretty rare when it does happen. Speaking of Moxsy, he tweeted out this, and in this screenshot of Reddit, it talks about Harlow being the she that Zero refers to in Borderlands 3. Before fighting Katagawa, you find out he's wearing a suit that looks like Zero's, except it's clearly Maliwan. After defeating Katagawa, Zero says, quote, "Damn, Katagawa, how did he copy my suit? Did she? No, never." End quote. And in Harlow's character short, Harlow says the entire Maliwan ecosystem is built on her tech. Could the she Zero refers to in Borderlands 3 be Harlow? I suppose it is possible, and I'd love to hear more about it if it's true. It's funny because I always assumed Zero was referring to Tannis after watching this Eruption Fang video where he talks about this Pandoran Gazette that came with the loot chest, and it has a part where Tannis talks about Zero, and basically it all alludes to Tannis knowing what Zero is. Eruption Fang even says this guarantees nothing, but for some reason I got it in my head that she was the only one that knows anything about him. Honestly, Harlow being the one that could have made this suit makes way more sense, or at least her tech being involved with the making of this suit, since Harlow claims in her character short that most Maliwan tech is off the foundation of her science. Next up, we have Nvidia at Gamescom, and in this clip here, we get the tiniest peek at where you start in Borderlands 4 and some gameplay of someone just walking around, and EpicNNG even shared this screenshot of them talking to a character named RJ. I'll have the full thing linked down below if you want to check out the video, but that's pretty much all we saw. Now moving forward, or maybe backward, I dug back for this video. I went through old Game Informer interviews for anything I find interesting that maybe I did not pick up as info before, and something really awesome is Graham Timmons talks about filling up the world with side quests, events, and things to find in general. He talks about vehicle customization and how it affects the feel of your vehicle, but also how it's important to, as I paraphrase here, give a good amount of reason to traverse on foot. Basically, there was a focus to make sure that when you traverse on foot, you feel rewarded by finding tons of not just loot, but activities, locations, and quests as well, which I love that he came in with this philosophy of loot isn't the only reward in Borderlands, or at least it doesn't have to be the only reward, and he considered just the excitement of exploration and finding things as part of that reward in Borderlands. Now, going all the way back to FanFest was a screenshot where we learned about something called a firmware transfer station, and we can also see the Maurice Black Market is here as well. Focusing on firmware though, we already know what this is for the most part, but I want to recap a little bit. Firmware is what's on enhancements, and enhancements are Borderlands 4's replacement of relics in Borderlands 3 and Borderlands 2. Each enhancement rolls with a licensed part unless it is legendary, in which case it can roll with 2. But the big thing about enhancements is their bonuses. It's essentially like a set bonus, and these set bonuses I used to think revolved around being things that rolled on your weapons, but it's actually pretty much everything else, like your shield, class mod, rep kit, ordnance, and your enhancement. Now, if we look at this enhancement, for example, it has Action Fist as its set bonus, or firmware, and it's 1 out of 3. This doesn't mean it can't work, it just gets more of a buff the more it fills out. What the specific firmware does, I don't know, but they have been described as utility increases like a damage boost, for example, and so if you get Action Fist to roll as a part on any of your 5 separate pieces of gear I listed earlier, then this Action Fist set bonus or firmware becomes stronger. Now, you can have 3 enhancements equipped at once, and all of them could have different firmware. You could have 1 out of 3 for all of them, or 1 3 out of 3 and 2 1 out of 3. Also, not all firmware on your enhancement piece has an out of 3 bonus. Some only need 1 or 2, meaning they require less to get the maximum set bonus from it. Now, that seems like a lot of farming, but maybe not, because at the beginning of this, I mentioned that a firmware transfer station was spotted on the map legend. I don't know exactly how this works, but I assume for some currency, you can use this to help get the firmware you want on the right piece of gear. I'm very excited and can't wait to get more details on all of this, which we very well might get, as they will be talking about endgame at PAX West, confirmed by Gearbox themselves. Now, I want to dive even further back into recap territory by going back to basics with our 4 playable Vault Hunters. Although I won't be discussing this too much, I wanted to show this awesome tool that was made by some awesome people from the Borderlands community over on Maxroll. I admittedly haven't used it a ton myself till recently, and it's pretty frickin' sweet. You can now check out all the Vault Hunters skill trees, and it's fully interactive. Whether you just want to get an idea of what a character plays like, if you can't decide who to play as and need a better idea of their playstyle, or if you want to make a full-fledged build, this interactive skill tree lets you do this with any of the 4 playable Vault Hunters in Borderlands 4. The link for this site will be down below, and all you do is go to the Planner tab here, and next to where it says New Profile, you just click on the little avatar, it gives you a drop down, and then you can select any of the 4 Vault Hunters you'd like to check out. Now, I was dumb at first and thought it didn't let me read any of the action skills, but really you just click over here and it gives you a drop down menu, which then you can select any of the action skills, and when you do, it lets you read exactly the whole description of what it does. Now, Gearbox has responded to this website, and they're even on their own official website where you can read the action skills and everything and all the numbers. They did put out a disclaimer that all these things are subject to change up to launch, and probably even honestly beyond launch if they need to do any balance changes. But yeah, guys, this website is an awesome tool if you just want to check out, if you want to read certain skills, augments, anything. You hover over any of them, it tells you all about it. It gives you the skill points, 0 out of 49, because max level will be 50 in Borderlands 4, and you can just spec your way through and pick as you go along. Just spec your way through the skill tree and have fun with it and make your own build. Or if you're not the type to do that, you can even check out community builds and scroll through for your own, check out community builds made by other people for your own character that you decide to play as in Borderlands 4, or even after Borderlands 4 comes out. If you beat the game and you want to check out builds, you can come to this website here and check out community builds on this tab. With that though, guys, that is everything I wanted to share today. I really wanted to get this video out before PAX West as kind of like a sharing of things more recent, but also a bit of a recap with the enhancement gear and whatnot, because again, at PAX West, they will be discussing endgame, and I'm sure enhancements and set bonuses or firmware will be a part of that. I can't wait to learn more at PAX West, and if you want to learn alongside me, then come right back to my channel here, where I will be streaming the Gearbox Showcase. Gearbox at PAX West begins at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I will probably begin my stream a little before that, so feel free to come hang out, chat, and we can react together at all the crazy news from what will likely be the last big showcase before the game launches. I hope you stop by, and I can't wait to be right back here discussing all the juicy details with y'all. See y'all in the next one. Peace out.